It's a pleasant way to welcome you to this live broadcast here from the headquarters of the All Liberian Party of Wilfred Benin, where Mr. Henry Costa, member of the All Liberian Party and also the chairman of the Council of Patriots here in Liberia, will be addressing the press. It's a very major press conference here, well attended, and of course all media outlets here in Liberia are here. My name is Prince Moba. This is the US-based focus on Liberia. Thanks for joining us.
5 minutes will be set up.
We told in the next 5 minutes the press conference will kick up, where Mr. Henry Costa will be revealing to the Liberian people his plan for the ensuing elections, where does it stand. So thanks for joining us, thanks for following. Share the live video. If you're following us from any part of the world, in the United States of America, in the United Kingdom, in Africa, anywhere you come from, joining us from, thanks for joining. Of course, please share the live.
And the one who comes in can use the auto door. Yes, and then it's back to come down
Okay. Protocol observed. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, our listening audience, Mr. Chairman,
Chetri Manakula is the Secretary General of the All Liberian Party, making the introductory statement.
We want to say welcome to the All Liberian Party headquarters. As you are aware, over a period of time, we have not spoken to the press, and there have been unanswered questions to us. But on this day, we will, the All Liberian Party, officially address the nation about our silence on issues that matter a lot. And this will be done today by Honorable Henry Costa, one of the officials of the All Liberian Party. So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, we say you are most welcome. Feel free and take the news out to our people. Thank you very much.
We want to thank the SG on Mr. Jeffrey Manuel Colette for that. The National Chairman of our party, Honorable Tiro Momo, another party officials, Dr. Kamo, and we want to welcome each and every one of you here present to this all-important press conference. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, fellow Liberians, we appreciate your presence here today as we break our months-long silence to address the concerns, misconceptions, and malicious rumors that have circulated unabated. We understand that our extended period of silence has raised questions among our supporters and the public at large. Today we aim to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of our reasons for this silence and to debunk the diabolical lies and unrelenting skullduggery perpetrated by our detractors. First and foremost, we want to emphasize that our commitment to real change and a better Liberia remains unwavering. We firmly believe that our period of silence enabled us to have a sober reflection, consultation, and healing as a necessary investment in our collective growth and success. It has allowed us to emerge stronger, more focused, and better equipped to tackle the challenges ahead. We extend our gratitude to all those who patiently stood by us, recognizing the significance of this process and the positive outcomes it will yield. As we break our silence today, we do so with renewed determination and a clear sense of purpose. We stand ready to face the future, guided by the lessons learned, the wisdom shared, and the healing experienced during this period. Together we shall forge a path of progress, unity, and prosperity for our party and our beloved nation. It is very important for us to begin this statement by giving some background on the steps that we in the ALP have taken in support of Ambassador Boakai and for what we believed would be for the betterment of the Liberian people. ALP's relationship with and support for Ambassador Boakai and the Unity Party began during the 2017 elections. After the first round of the general and presidential elections of 2017, the All-Liberian Party, led by our dynamic leader, Honorable Benana Uri, made a clear and what we believed to be a patriotic decision to rally our forces and stand firmly with the Unity Party and its standard bearer, Ambassador Joseph Human Boakai, as they faced off against CDC's then Senator George Weah in the fiercely contested runoff election. It must be stated that then presidential candidate Weah personally reached out to us seeking our support, but we believed at the time that Ambassador Joseph Boakai was the better man for the job. So we declined George Weah's frantic appeal for our support and went with VP Joseph Boakai instead. Ever since then, the All-Liberian Party supported former Vice President Joseph Boakai in every way, shape, or form in the interest of our country. During this period of support, his friends became our friends and his enemies our enemies. A few years ago, our political leader, Honorable Uri, set off some nerves in the camp of our former CPP partner, the ANC, when he publicly stated and announced that he would not be vying for the presidency himself, but rather he believed that Ambassador Joseph Boakai should be crowned the standard bearer of the CPP because of his experience and seniority, amongst other reasons. That single announcement, which I must admit, wasn't exactly a derived position of our party, caused a deep rift between us and the Alex Cummings camp. However, we believed that there was a need for a decisiveness to ensure that a clear path for opposition victory. He made a clear decision to support Ambassador Boakai without any posturing or request for anything for himself or the ALP. A decision which would eventually lead to the ALP being treated with great disregard as other political parties and individuals demanded that they would only support UP if they were told what they would get out of it. The ALP was continuously mocked, quote, for selling itself for nothing, unquote, while other parties held their support as bargaining chips. This did not deter us as we remained unflinching in our support for Ambassador Boakai and the Unity Party.
When the ALP established that the CPP framework document had been fraudulently tampered with by the ANC, our political leader raised the matter with Ambassador Boakai, and both Ambassador Boakai and Honorable Ure decided that we go to court. However, Ambassador Boakai impressed upon our political leader that being the current CPP chairman, which he, Ambassador Boakai, was at the time, and an elderly statesman, it would not look good on him to be a direct party in the lawsuit. So he asked the ALP to single-handedly file the lawsuit against Alice Cummings and his ANC for forgery and other reasons, and other charges. Had the ALP not caught the forgery that had been done to the framework agreement, the United Party today would have been in trouble because the perpetrators of this forgery had targeted provisions that would make Ambassador Boakai ineligible to become the CPP standard bearer. One of those provisions stated that anyone who was not in good health would not be able to contest for the CPP standard bearer position, and that was directly put in place to stop Ambassador Boakai from contesting. The ALP fought this battle single-handedly to protect Ambassador Boakai's candidacy. To our utmost surprise, elements in UP would be the ones branding the ALP as troublemakers in an effort to make ALP look bad to the public. Notwithstanding, the ever-loyal ALP did not back down and saw the trial through despite the negative sentiments built against us because of the posturing of many elements within the United Party. As for his part, Ambassador Boakai testified during the trial, as you all may very well recall. Sometime last year, Ambassador Boakai asked to meet with Honorable Ure, and in that meeting, he expressed a grave concern that he feared that Madam Ellen Johnson Shirley might be at work to undermine his leadership in the United Party, which he believed could destroy his presidential ambition. Therefore, he asked Honorable Ure to initiate a fallback position strategy by forming a new political vehicle which he will run on in case of any possible threat to his candidacy. Mr. Ure, a deeply loyal ally to Ambassador Joseph Boakai, wasting no time, proceeded to recruit veteran Liberian political activist and politician Professor Larry Tukpa, who graciously accepted the task and swiftly began the formation effort. Thus, the idea of the Democratic Alliance of Liberia, DAL, was birthed. The DAL was made up of several political parties, all of whom had pledged to support Ambassador Boakai's presidential bid. After months of negotiations, there was a collaboration agreement developed, which was to be endorsed by all political parties. The United Party then issued a memo to all parties that they did not need an alliance to win the election, and they will run as United Party and only ask for the other parties to endorse them. We rejected this idea and insisted that to win this election, there was a need to bring together as many political parties as possible to strengthen our position, as we see the ruling CDC doing. We later discovered, to our utmost shock, that the likes of Brownie Samokai, Francis Yomaling, Kofi Woos, and their ilk learned of this new move and persuaded Ambassador Boakai to disengage from it and instead propose their own vehicle to him, something they called the Grand Alliance. We were not surprised at this, considering that these are the group of people who had previously convinced Ambassador Boakai not to attend an endorsement program that was organized by ALP in Banga, canceling only 2 days to the ceremony, after the ALP had spent tens of thousands of dollars to mobilize and plan for that program in support of JNB. We realized that there were certain individuals in Ambassador Boakai's inner circle that were bent on ostracizing the ALP and creating very bad feelings amongst ALP leaders and supporters. For reasons unbeknownst to us till today, Ambassador Joseph Boakai accepted their proposal and dropped the idea of the Democratic Alliance of Liberia, which he had asked Mr. Ure to create. He then tried to convince Mr. Uri to come on board the so-called Grand Alliance formed by Brownie Samokai, Francis Yumale, and Kofi Woods. To this request, Honorable Benana Uri vehemently refused on grounds that if Ambassador Joseph Boakai felt that the idea of the Democratic Alliance was no longer necessary, then what was the point of forming the so-called Grand Alliance as proposed by Brownie Samokai, Kofi Woods, and others? Mr. Uri proceeded to tell Ambassador Boakai that he did not believe that the decision of the Unity Party was right in abandoning the efforts of all the parties that were working to put the DAL together. Moreover, he could only work with Brownie Samokai and Kofi Woods if they would come out publicly and declare their support for Ambassador Boakai, something that has not been done up to date. Lest I forget to mention that Professor Larry Tokpa was deeply disappointed that his hard-fought effort had been wasted. We appeal to him to let it go for the sake of our, quote, beloved JNB, unquote. Fellow Liberians, over the years, we fought many other battles publicly and privately for Ambassador Joseph Boakai. And as for financial support, Honorable Uri, Ms. Tilia Uri, and I personally provided and sustained immense financial support to Ambassador Boakai that we do not wish to disclose here today. But there are tons of witnesses to this fact. On the subject of how I came into the running mate conversation. On Friday, January 13, 2023, I had a very important meeting in Liberia at Royal Hotel in room 309 with representatives of some very serious and powerful people. They offered me millions of dollars to run for the presidency of Liberia in this year's general and presidential elections. Their proposition, though massive, was not a shocker to me as a powerful man of God that I trust had earlier prophesied to me 3 years ago in 2020. They told me that they had conducted a nationwide survey on me that indicated that I had a strong favorability across the country. They promised to deploy the required expertise on top of the millions of dollars they were offering to ensure success. I must admit, I was overwhelmed in no small measure, not just by the sheer enormity of the proposition or offer, but also that it was particularly happening to me, Henry Costa, instead of one of the many already declared presidential candidates out there. Why me, I ask myself quietly. When it was my turn to speak after the gentleman had made the proposition to me, I nervously thanked them for their most generous offer, but firmly and respectfully declined their offer. I told them that I could not accept their money to run against Ambassador Joseph Boakai, for I was fully committed to his candidacy, and I believed it would deeply devastate a man that I had come to love, admire, and enthusiastically support. It would be a most painful act of betrayal, I believed at the time. The gentlemen were deeply disappointed by my answer, but ironically, they were blown away and impressed by my sheer loyalty to a man who is not even a remote blood relative of mine. Considering the serious money problems that Uncle Joe, as I call him, was facing, which I am very well familiar with, I then passionately pleaded with the gentlemen to convey my humble and fervent request to their superiors that I wanted them to kindly divert and give the $30 million package that they had offered me to Ambassador Joseph Yuma Boakai for his presidential campaign, while I would then focus on my already declared bid for the Senate seat of Montserrat County. After much hesitation, they reluctantly agreed to pass on my request to their superiors. I left that meeting feeling assured that I had done a most honorable and good thing. But little did I know the horrible nightmare that I was about to experience. I came downstairs where my people were waiting for me, got in my car, briefed my people who had accompanied me, and then called the prophet of God who had seen the revelation 3 years ago and told him that his prophecy had finally come to pass, but that I turned it down. He wasn't happy at all that I had declined the offer of $30 million to run for president. But I was convinced nonetheless that I had done the right thing. I returned to the United States the next day to head up the preparation effort to receive former Vice President Joseph Boakai, a week after his discharge from ERWA Hospital, where he had been receiving medical treatment. While in transit in Accra, Ghana, I called Mrs. Louise Tamba, who is married to Ambassador Joseph Boakai's nephew and a very close confidant to the former VP. I told her about my meeting in Liberia and my decision and action that I had taken. Says Louise, as I affectionately and respectfully called her, and I had developed a very strong and close big sister and small brother relationship, a relationship personally encouraged by Mr. Boakai himself. The three of us had built a strong bond, says Louise, Uncle Joe, and myself, and we worked very closely together like a family. I specifically asked Sis Louise, Mrs. Louise Tamba, not to inform Ambassador Boakai about my meeting until I had received an answer, hopefully a positive one, from the people regarding my request asking them to give to Ambassador Boakai the $30 million that they had offered me to run for his presidential campaign. But says Louis, being so worried about the terrible money problems facing former VP Boakai and concerned about how much Ambassador Boakai worries about his serious financial problems, especially with the impending presidential campaign, she couldn't hold back her excitement at a strong possibility that Ambassador Boakai's money problems could soon be over. So she ignored my wishes and proceeded to inform VP Boakai, who was already at the time in the US with us, literally 7 minutes from my residence in Delaware. The next morning when I arrived at a residence we had rented for Ambassador Boakai to stay while he was in the States, I went upstairs to greet him as I usually did, if he wasn't already downstairs whenever I got there. Upon seeing me, he immediately, with much excitement, broke the word to me that Mrs. Tamba had informed him what he believed was the best news he had received in a long time about my meeting with the financial backers at Royal Hotel. He said that he believed it was God's mysterious way of solving our money problems. He was so happy and thanked me profusely for what he believed was a great uncommon sacrifice that I had made to turn down $30 million to run for president out of deep loyalty to him. I was so very happy to see my beloved Uncle Joe so very happy. For several weeks, while we waited to hear good news from the financial backers, Uncle Joe put me under serious pressure and stress for updates, which sometimes I didn't have to give him. Then he departed the United States on February 10th to return to Liberia. And on the very next day, Saturday, February 11th, I received the long-awaited answer from the financial backers. They first expressed their disappointment in me for not accepting their offer to run for president. But thankfully, they have considered and accepted my request to support Ambassador Boakai instead. But it came with one condition. They requested that in exchange for their $30 million, Ambassador Boakai must pick me, Henry Costa, as his running mate. When I delivered their terms or requests to Ambassador Boakai, at the time he was already in Liberia, he readily and happily accepted and agreed. I was stunned. He went on to tell me how brilliant, loyal, patriotic I am, and what a godsend I have been to him over these past years, and much more. That was the first time I heard such flattering words from Uncle Joe. Now permit me to backtrack a little. A few weeks earlier, Ambassador Boakai had told me during a 1-hour phone call that he was not going with Senator Yomli Kanga Lawrence as his running mate because of a weakened position due to the internal crisis in her party and because of the way she had treated Charles Bromskin's party and people by mortgaging it to the likes of Musa Bility, according to him. He also decisively dismissed the idea of picking Jeremiah Kun, whom he said was very corrupt and a puppet of the notorious warlord Prince Johnson. He further told me that the Americans in particular would be very unhappy and offended if he picked Jeremiah Kun as his running mate. I used the opportunity of the call to tell Ambassador Boakai very firmly that I, Henry Pedro Costa, would not continue to support him if he picked Jeremiah Kun as his running mate. Because I believe Jeremiah Kun stands for nothing and has spent all his years in the House and in the Liberian Senate busy enriching himself, voting for every bad deal that came before him, and never once stood up for the Liberian people's interests. I also told Ambassador Boakai that picking Jeremiah Kun, who is a political puppet of Prince Johnson's, a very dangerous warlord who is under U.S. sanctions, would be deemed as a slap in the face to the United States, our oldest and most important partner. I went further to tell Uncle Joe that having a troubled man like Prince Johnson close to the presidency would be a grave threat to our national security and our fledgling democracy. My fellow Liberians, Ambassador Boakai agreed with me on all these counts and proceeded to promise me, Henry Pedro Costa, that he would never make the mistake of selecting Jeremiah Kun as his running mate, as it would be devastating for the country, and he had the responsibility to pick someone with shared values. But of course, Uncle Joe would ultimately break his promise a few weeks later. After these conversations with Ambassador Boakai, I reached out to my political leader, my party chairman, and Ms. Tilia Ure, to let them know of all the developments and what Ambassador Boakai had committed to me. All of them agreed to support my selection should Ambassador Boakai select me. Truthfully, none of them believed that he would pick me, but they hoped he would. They also suggested that we recommend Mrs. Sarah Besloyanti, who had been our preferred choice for running mate to Ambassador Boakai, considering her experience, position, and ability to mobilize support for his candidacy. We agreed to see things through with these options. So on Thursday, March 16, Ambassador Joseph Boakai and a delegation of 4 persons boarded a Kenya Airways flight and landed in Accra, Ghana an hour and a half later for his meeting with my financial backers. The trip was entirely paid for, baton, ticket, accommodation by the people. In the meeting, which took place at the Marriott Hotel near Costa International Airport, a meeting requested by Ambassador Boakai, he did something that would dramatically change the way I see him forever and ever. When he got into the meeting with the potential financiers, Ambassador Joseph Boakai used the opportunity to badmouth me to these financiers, saying some of the most negative things about my character to them. After telling me that he would commit to them, that he would make me his running mate, he broke his promise and went on a rampage of trying to damage my reputation to these people who I had brought to support him. He even went as far as blasting them for offering me such a deal rather than offering it to him. He told them to dump me and give him the $30 million so that he could pick whoever he wanted for his running mate. In exchange, he promised to give them anything they wanted in Liberia if he won the election. In specificity, he promised he would give them the Wologisi Mountain in Lofa County. Moreover, he told them that he could never select Yombli as his running mate, neither Jeremiah Kun as his running mate. As you may expect, the people were very shocked by Ambassador Boakai's behavior. And when they asked him about his promise to name me as his running mate, Ambassador Boakai vehemently denied ever promising to make me his running mate. The people finally and firmly rejected Ambassador Boakai's request to abandon me and give him the package, and expressed their disgust at his behavior. After the meeting, one of their representatives called and briefed me on how the meeting went. And as you can imagine, I was deeply disgusted, disappointed, and felt betrayed by a man I had come to consider a father figure and done so much for. My whole body was shaking with sadness and anger coursing through my veins upon hearing of Ambassador Boakai's wicked betrayal. When I managed to calm down a bit, I placed a call to Ambassador Boakai and added his son, Jojo Boakai, Mrs. Louis Tamba, Mr. Sir Johnny, and Miss Tilia Ure to the call. The call was to express myself to him for what he had just done to me. During that call, which lasted for almost 2 hours, I vented and expressed my deep disappointment at Ambassador Boakai's painful betrayal towards me. I was hoping, fellow Liberians, that the news of Uncle Joe's betrayal of his favorite, most dependable, greatest ally, as he always called me, was not true. But sadly, Ambassador Boakai confessed on the call that he did indeed betray me. After confessing his cruel action, he went further to apologize. He said, and I quote, "Henry, I am not too old to say sorry when I have wronged someone. And what I did to you was very wrong. I am sorry. Please forgive me." Unquote. After he uttered those words in a seemingly sorrowful tone, I instantly felt sorry for him and blamed his action on the desperate financial situation he was in. The man had just wronged me, but yeah, I was making an excuse for him. I accepted his apology, and we moved on to discuss how we would salvage the mess and try to get the funds for the campaign. On that call, I even told Uncle Joe that he did not have to select me as his running mate, but that we needed to find a way to bring the people back to the table so as not to lose that great and golden opportunity. There were many other things that we discussed on that call. The call eventually ended with Ambassador Boakai promising to hold consultations with his party officials and close advisors to inform them that he, Joseph Yuma Boakai, was now putting me under consideration for his running mate because he needed the financial resources, and that he believed I would serve him loyally as vice president if he won the election. To this date, we are still confused about his action and how he treated me. He did not have to promise me anything because I was not entitled to it. So he simply wanted the money. If he simply wanted the money without picking me as his running mate, he should have simply told me. And I would have fought hard to try to get the people to support him without making him pick me as his running mate, because this is how much I used to believe in and care for Uncle Joe. When Ambassador Boakai returned to Liberia on Saturday, March 18, our nightmare began. He held a meeting with his closest advisors and party officials and told them that he was now adding me to his running mate shortlist. That is how you heard my name in the running mate conversation. It was Ambassador Boakai who put my name on the shortlist. The very next day, on Monday, March 19, he drove to Carisburg to consult with the leader of our party, Honorable Benana Ure. He asked Honorable Ure whether he was in support of me being considered for running mate. And Honorable Ure told him that he was fully in support. However, that it was up to him, Ambassador Boakai, to make his pick of whoever he felt was best suited for him. Fellow Liberians, what came next was extremely horrible and unbelievable. The same people that we have supported and worked very closely with for so many years suddenly turned on us and began to fabricate wicked and crazy lies against us. It began with a nonsensical lie that the financial backers that Ambassador Boakai had met with in Accra, Ghana, were fake and that they were agents of the CDC government. Ambassador Boakai even went to the extent of talking to Senator Sir Joseph on the phone, where Sir Joseph convinced him that it was the CDC government that was clandestinely putting up the $30 million so that he, Ambassador Joe Boakai, could pick me as his running mate so that he could lose the election to the CDC. I was shocked that my Uncle Joe would now begin to believe opposition officials against his favorite and beloved nephew. When I was told these things, with no denial from a man I had loyally served, I was left disheartened, shocked, and with a strong feeling of betrayal. Let the record show that the financial backers, because of everything that transpired, withdrew their support and did not give me a cent. I lost the opportunity because of my loyalty to Uncle Joe. Fellow Liberians, of all the wicked lies that were told against us, let me tell you the worst of them all. When Uncle Joe went to the States in late January of this year, a week after he was discharged from Liberian hospital, and upon his request as usual, I scheduled several medical appointments for him with his cardiologist, heart doctor, and an internal medicine doctor. All the medical examinations from Liberian hospital and from the doctors in the United States concluded one finding. Ambassador Joseph Human Boakai needed to do what is called a triple bypass open heart surgery within 6 months to have a weakening artery in his heart removed and replaced by another artery from his thigh. The doctors advised him that if he didn't get the surgery done within 6 months, his heart could stop beating. The doctors also advised Uncle Joe against putting himself through unnecessary stress, as they said it could only worsen his condition. We were all very scared, as you can imagine, with this diagnosis. We decided to keep this information a very tight secret and then work very fast to get Uncle Joe back to the United States for the surgery. So on March 2nd, after I had raised the money for the trip, we had a Zoom meeting to finalize plans for the very important trip back to the States. In that meeting were Louis Tamba, who lives in Minnesota, Jake Kabakoli, Sir Johnny, Jojo Boakai, Uncle Joe, and myself. I coordinated the meeting. The next day, I bought 2 plane tickets, 1 business class ticket for Uncle Joe and 1 economy for his nephew, Jacob Kabakoli, to depart Liberia on the 23rd of March via Accra on Delta Airlines to arrive in New York the next day on the 24th of March and onward to Minnesota, where the surgery was supposed to be done. I bought 1 plane ticket for myself to fly from Delaware to Minnesota on the same day of March 23 to receive them from the airport and drive them to the residence that I had booked for them in Rochester, Minnesota. Everything was all set. But 2 weeks to their departure from Liberia, Jacob Kabakoli called me to say that Uncle Joe was canceling the trip. I didn't ask him why, but I was shocked that Uncle Joe would cancel such an important trip without speaking with me. It was very strange and unusual. But then days later, I started to hear the gravest rumor that Ambassador Boakai had been made to believe, maybe influenced by his people, that President Weah and his people had provided me with a huge amount of money to pay the American doctors that were supposed to do the surgery on American soil, in an American hospital, to kill Joseph Boakai during the surgery. Therefore, that is the reason why Uncle Joe was canceling the trip. He no longer trusted me and did not want to come to do the surgery anymore. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they could go to that extent. But then, of course, on March 30th, the bombshell came from Uncle Joe himself. He sent me a long WhatsApp message saying a lot of things. And in the last paragraph, he said that he had received information that he would be killed in the surgery and therefore not participate in the election. So he wasn't going for the surgery anymore. I was beyond shocked and deeply heartbroken when I read that message from Uncle Joe. And the rumor had finally been validated. I still have that message in my phone as we speak. Around this period, around the second week of April, Ambassador Joseph Boakai had completely stopped talking to Mr. Ure, to Ms. Tilia Ure, to our party chairman seated right to my right, Mr. Tiro Momo, and me. He completely cut us off. He no longer involved nor consulted us on political matters as he always did. Whenever we called him, he wouldn't answer, or if we were lucky, he would message us back days later saying he was busy. But what struck us was that during this whole time, he was basically engaged in political discussions with Prince Johnson, Jeremiah Kung, Yomli Kanga Lawrence, even the infamous corruption King Kong Ellis Tyler, Waymut Pei, James Banning, to name a few. They held meetings during those weeks in Monrovia and at his farm in Bombing. Some of you can attest. None of those meetings where critical political decisions were made was our party, the ALP, ever involved or invited to. None. In those political discussions and negotiations that they had without our involvement, they divided up the various representative and senatorial seats among Jeremiah Kung / Prince Johnson's MDR party, Yumbli's faction of the Liberty Party, Unity Party, and even the infamous Alex Tyler got the exclusive pass to contest the Bombay County Senate seat unopposed. What did they give the ALP? Nothing. Even though they all knew that I had declared that I was running for the Senate in Montserrat County, my beloved Uncle Joe, for whom I have fought and made many enemies, who used to call me his greatest ally and most dependable nephew, agreed and allowed the Unity Party to put Waymut Pei on the UP ticket in Montserrat County against me. Our party, the All Liberian Party, which has stood with and fiercely fought for Ambassador Boakai for many years, when his new best friends and allies were nowhere around, was left in the cold. The next thing we heard on social media was that Ambassador Boakai would be naming his running mate on April 20. Yes, we heard it on social media. We were completely taken aback because we believed that after strongly supporting Ambassador Boakai over the years, surely ALP would be consulted and be an integral part of this key decision-making process. We were so sure that consideration would be given to our views on who would be selected. But we were wrong, and very wrong too, and very mistaken. On April 26, 2 days to the day Ambassador Boakai would name his running mate, he drove up to Carisburg to inform us that he had decided to name Jeremiah Kung as his running mate. He did not go there to consult with us on what we thought was best, nor did he go there to sincerely seek our support for the ticket. He merely came to give us an FYI for your information about a decision he had made. A decision which he vehemently said many weeks earlier that he would never make in the interests of the country. After he got through speaking, our political leader, Honorable Ure, then asked him a single question. That question was, quote, "Do you feel comfortable in trusting Liberia to the care of these new allies of yours?" Unquote. This question was in consideration of the fact that we had first-hand information of his grave health issues, along with age not being in his favor. Ambassador Boakai responded and said, quote, "Ben," as he was referring to Honorable Ure, "in the forest there are many animals, good and bad, but they all make up the forest," unquote. Our political leader wasn't satisfied with this vague response from Ambassador Boakai, so he pressed him further by repeating his question. And then this time, Ambassador Boakai said in a rather retortive tone, quote, "If I have to dance with the devil to win this election, I am prepared to do that. And even the devil has a role to play in my election," unquote. Moreover, he went further. "We have to win before we can rescue. And I have to do anything to win," unquote. After that statement, the meeting came to an end. I did not say a single word in that meeting. And Ambassador Boakai did not say a single word to me either. He never looked me in the eye once during the entire 10-minute meeting. Then the whole issue of ALP attending the program, the naming program, came up. We made it very clear that ALP was never at any point invited to the program. In fact, even in the meeting on April 26, it was not mentioned. In fact, that meeting was not to solicit support. It was to merely to inform us of his running mate decision. Interestingly, at 10 minutes past 11 p.m., almost midnight on April 27th, the evening of his naming ceremony, Ambassador Boakai sent me a WhatsApp message inviting me to the program as his son. Midnight, the eve, I have that message in my phone as we speak. Of course, we didn't attend the program because it was a program we were not involved with in any shape or form. You do not treat your allies and supporters with the level of disdain and malice that the ALP has been treated with over the years. If we were true partners to Unity Party, such a critical decision as the selection of his running mate would have been done in consultation, considering there was no immediate rush for the April 28th naming of his running mate. Ambassador Boakai and the Unity Party have quickly forgotten the tremendous amount of sacrifice that the ALP and its leaders, including myself, have made over the past decade, standing against the ills in our society. Therefore, we will never compromise our values to support any and everything just because we want to win power or to win an election. We shall continue to stand up for what we believe is right and only support a ticket we believe that has individuals with the same ideology as we do, to change the direction of our country for the betterment of all Liberians. We have not stood firmly over these past years against the ills in society, only to today dance with the devil for the sake of power. We strongly reject that, and we feel very sorry that the old man would put himself through this out of sheer desperation for power. Besides, we are religious people, Christians and Muslims. We do not dance with the devil. We reject and rebuke the devil. If this was a personal or selfish quest for us, we would have not fought against President Sirleaf, President Weah, and the wicked national legislature that has done nothing for our people but themselves. We shall never see a bad leadership and support it. We also will not be part of forming or supporting the same bad group of people that has hijacked the so-called rescue mission. And just so you know, we were the ones who coined the phrase rescue mission. Since the announcement, and during this period of our silence and consultation, the Unity Party has been antagonizing the ALP in ways that we would have never imagined after all these sacrifices we've made in support of them. Firstly, UP executives have been engaging some ALP aspirants to abandon ALP and run on the UP ticket across many districts. They have engaged ALP executives to resign from ALP and join UP, all of which evil efforts have failed. We have sent several words of caution asking them to desist, but have all fallen on deaf ears. They have also moved to field candidates in many areas against ALP candidates or aspirants, something which we both previously agreed they would not do. Moreover, you all recently witnessed how Ms. Tilia Uri was unceremoniously removed from the JMB tag team as chairperson, an organization that she led with distinction and passion, sacrificing her time, energy, and resources to make it what it is today. My fellow Liberians, the press, let me tell you all the truth, yeah? We did not abandon Ambassador Joseph Boakai, as they will have you believe. Rather, it was Ambassador Boakai who abandoned us in the ALP. It was Ambassador Boakai who stopped talking to us since the second week in April. Even worse, he has also abandoned his own vision for the Liberian people. Fellow Liberians, in closing, I have been designated by my party, the All Liberian Party, to inform and announce in no uncertain, categorical, and unambiguous terms that our party, the All Liberian Party, is no longer political allies or partners with Ambassador Joseph Boakai and his Unity Party. We no longer share the ideals, vision, or values that we once shared. In the coming days, our party will be convening to determine our next course of action politically. Thank you, and may God bless you and save our state.
Have you been talked to by other political parties to join? If so, who are the political parties?
Thank you. We've been engaged and we are continuing to be engaged as a political party. Our chairman here can bear witness to that, by several other political actors. Our party has not made a decision yet. Okay. So we take point over.
All right, so Mr. Henry Costa, my name is Springs, and I report for Prime FM and focus on Liberia, online TV based in the US. I mean, my question to you, Mr. Costa, is from all that you explained, your relationship with the former vice president, the Unity Party, and all those kinds of things. How do you think Liberians who are viewing this press conference will believe what you said? The part two to that question is, Mr. Costa, do you still believe or do you still support an opposition victory in 2023? Do you still support that? Do you still stand by that?
Prince, thank you very much for the question. Again, as I said, our party will convene a meeting of our party structure from across the counties, and a decision will be reached as to our next political move. Also, like we said, Prince, we have no reason to lie on Mr. Boakai. Do you think Honorable Ure is mad at Honorable Boakai because he did not pick Henry Costa as his running mate? Is that what you think? No. Honorable Ure is a deeply loyal and patriotic man. If you see him not on the bandwagon with JMB as he was before, it is not because I was not picked. It is because Joseph Boakai caught Mr. Ure, Chairman Momo, our party, Telia Ure. He caught all of us off. We were caught off. We did not abandon the old man. We were with him when others were not with him. Don't forget that. Nobody in this room can say that the ALP did not fight the hardest for JMB. But for them to believe that I could be paid by CDC to pay American doctors in America to kill JMB in a surgery, it's just too much.
Jethro, do we take you? Jethro.
My name is Robin Dubo. I have a concern. Just in case you stay in the opposition side and JMB make it to the second round, will you still support JMB for the presidency?
We are a political party. We meet, we discuss, we review the situation, and we make a determination. So at this point, I'm not clothed with the authority to say that. Neither do you have a crystal ball to know who will go into the second round.
So we take one from there, then we take the last one. Yes.
Costa, the last time we had a conversation with you, had an interview with you, you denied of receiving any message prior to the nomination from Ambassador Boakai nominating his running mate. Today you're telling us about his WhatsApp message. What does it mean? Are you in contradiction to your previous statement when you talked about friends that you were invited for the process?
Yeah, but I did say, that the invitation text message came at 10 minutes past 11 p.m. Let me ask you a question, bro. If you were invited by your uncle, not by blood, but by affinity, someone who you were so very extremely close with, and he was having his wedding or a very most important event in his life, would you expect an invitation at the 11th hour, or would you expect to be part of the organization of that event?
I'm taking into consideration.
Okay, we're not going to make a debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We take you right here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My name is Mark Kula. I want to ask Mr. Costa, Henry Costa. A few months ago, you made a claim that Senator Jeremiah Kuhn of Nema County was no past leader.
That question is irrelevant.
So, I'm laying your premise.
Thank you we want to say thank you very much for the time. I hope that indeed is well and you. Thank you very much.
How we come to the end of this press conference. presided over by Mr. Henry Costa, then still in laxity about the former Vice President of Boakai and how the all-Liberian party has now parted company with the Yoruba Party and Boakai. Thanks for following me, thanks for watching, bye-bye for now, I'm out.